as this gives them a sense of ownership and something positive for their rates. Just a week or so ago, we were informed of an AFL pre-season match between the reigning premiers, Richmond and Essendon, in February next year. This will be an exciting time, and I trust that Council will showcase the Northern Men's Oval in a way that the Ovens and Murray League must take notice and look at this being an alternative for the 2018 Grand Final. There is no doubt that the Northern Men's Oval is the premier ground in North East Victoria. We've also gained EPA approval for the construction of our own organics facility at North Wangaratta, and already have neighbouring councils wanting to jump on board. This has been a long drawn out process, and I thank Alan Clark and the team for their perseverance in achieving such a great result for the city. The other EPA issue was the North Wangaratta Oval, and following receipt of an amount of up to $3 million from the state government, we could see the removal of the contaminated soil before year's end and the reinstatement being commenced very early in 2018. So at long last there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and we should see North Wangaratta back on home soil sometime in the 2018 season. Capital works are steaming ahead with the removal of the open drain and a new entrance to the Bar Reserve off Park Lane, coupled with car parking installed, is just one of the many improvements taking place around the city. The Aerodrome Master Plan has been completed, and Council are hoping to see some great development taking out there early in the new year. Owners of planes have been screaming out for more hangars, and this master plan will really improve the chances of attracting aviation type businesses to the city. We have a great terminal facility there, and we should be looking at making use of it for functions and the like. We were presented with our financials yesterday for the 4 months to the 31st of October, and we are tracking spot on with our budget. I can also report that the panel hearing submissions in respect of the North Wangaratta Solar Farm has forwarded their recommendations to the department for the Minister's attention. This is pleasing, but we still do not know when the decision will be announced. On a sad note, the Council was shocked at the death of Councillor Ruth Amy during October. A family friend for some 40 years, I felt the loss very much, as she'd been my right hand when something for Council was needed to be organised. To Nolan family, sincere condolences from all at the Rural City. Just yesterday, Ashley Fitzpatrick was sworn in to replace Ruth, and I'm sure that her journey will be a long and fruitful one. Welcome to the team, Ashley. I was also privileged yesterday to dress in the robes and address the Assembly at Glenrowan Primary School, and certainly the years 4 and 5 had a lot of questions to ask the Mayor about how the city operates. I also, with our Economic Development Officer, presented to a parliamentary committee in Wodonga, where we talked to them about decentralisation. As we celebrate the first year of our 4-year term, it would be remiss of me if I didn't thank my fellow councillors, officers and staff for all the assistance they have afforded me over this past year. The Mayor's portfolio is a position not to be taken lightly, and I trust that I have fulfilled the role expected of me. Thank you. Someone like to move reception of the Mayor's report?
I'll move that.
Move Councillor Reid, second Councillor Curry. Any discussion? Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Moving along, 12.1, Executive Services, the Chief Executive Officer, Annual Review and Key Performance Indicators, 2017-18.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The annual performance review of the CEO has just been undertaken by the Council, and there is a separate attachment, a confidential attachment to this report that sets out the performance criteria for the Chief Executive Officer for the coming year. And this report recommends that Council endorse the CEO's 2017-2018 performance criteria.
Someone like to move the recommendation? Move Councillor Rees, second Councillor Benton. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Carrying on with corporate services, Councillor Dodds.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a requirement of the Local Government Act that Council gives reasonable notice of the public meetings that it intends to hold throughout the year. Council does that by putting an ad in the paper and also putting the program of meeting dates on its website. This report recommends the program of council meeting dates for the 2018 calendar year, and it retains our practice of holding 4 council meetings in the rural areas for that year.
Thank you. Any questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone move the recommendation. Move Councillor Bussell, second Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Community Wellbeing, Community Grants, minor category.
Thank you. So this report is presented to Council tonight in relation to our Community Grants program, which this is specifically for our small community grants. So Council has $170,000 annually in our budget, which is allocated to the provision of community grants, and there's a pool that is available for small grants and also those that are available for larger grants. We received 27 applications as part of our small grant process this year, which is a huge response and demonstrates the commitment that our community groups and organisations have to providing a range of services and projects to our community. There is 15 applications, community applications that have been recommended towards Council tonight, with a total funding pool of $44,788. This leaves us $125,000 just over for the allocation for our large grants that will happen early next calendar year. So the recommendation before Council tonight is that Council allocates the $44,788 to fund the following projects as part of the 2017-2018 Community Grants Program for the minor category.
Thank you. Councillor Benton.
Mr Mayor, I'll have to declare a conflict of interest. My apologies for not picking up sooner, but I'm a committee member of the Springers and Violet Hills Land Care Group.
Thank you. Questions from the gallery? Yes. Would you like to come forward and...
I just couldn't see the scrolling. I hadn't scrolled to
No questions from the gallery? Someone like to move the Yeah.
Just regarding the small grants, is that the end of the small grants for this year?
For this calendar year, yes. So we have large grants that will happen early next year.
So the definition of a small grant is less than 5,000?
That's right. Yes. Yep. So and then between 5 and 50 is our large grants.
Someone like to move the recommendation? Move Councillor Benton, second Councillor Curry. Councillor Curry. Any discussion? Councillor Benton, Bussell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. You'll get it right on the third time. I'd like to thank Jamie for the work that her team has done here. And I was at the Myree Soldiers Memorial Hall on Saturday night for a Green Valley Land Care meeting. and they did express to me that they were waiting to see whether this was successful for both groups. And it's extremely important to recognise and reward and to develop our rural communities. And for the Whitfield District Golf Club, it might seem like a small amount of money, 3,800, but I can assure you it is gratefully received in these small communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
I'd just also like to thank the Mayor and Dave Fuller, who were also passionately involved in the funding of this with Jamie's department in sorting out where this the money was to be allocated. So they've worked tirelessly on that there, and obviously there are people that are, or groups, organisations who have missed out. I can just say, please put in again for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Hudson. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Infrastructure services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This first report is presented to Council to consider the renaming of the roadway at the end of Oven Street as Mungie Place, which means Murray Cod. I've seen photos on them. And this recommendation's been out for public consultation as a result of the recommendation from the September Council meeting. We haven't had any submissions on this, and thus the recommendation tonight.
Thank you. Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Fuller. Councillor Curry. Wish to speak, Councillor Fuller? Councillors? No discussion? Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Municipal Emergency Management Plan.
So this report is brought to Council to consider the adoption of the Municipal Emergency Management Plan. It's been out for public consultation since the September Council meeting. We did receive some submissions from some of the services, Victorian SES, Vic Ambulance, Department of Health Human Services, and these were minor amendments which were procedural with name changes, etc., and they've been included in the final version of the plan. And thus the recommendation tonight is that Council adopt the Municipal Emergency Management Plan 2017 as presented.
Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone move the recommendation. Councillor Benton. Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, Mr Mayor, if I could close the discussion, is that okay?
Well, you haven't spoken to the motion.
I'll be closing it till I move. I just would like to show a note of appreciation to Jamie McCaffrey that did a lot of work in relationship to this. I know it was sort of a document that was very bureaucratic in nature, but I think it's still needed to be able to be read and understood, and I think he's done a magnificent job.
Thank you. Will you pass that on, Mr Clark?
Yes.
Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Asset Management Strategy Review, Mr Clark.
So this report is presented to Council to consider the adoption of the Asset Management Strategy 2017 to 2021. It too has been out on public consultation since the September Council meeting. There was no submissions received, and thus the recommendation is that Council adopts the Asset Management Strategy 2017-2021.
Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Curry. Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Development Services, 16.1. Mr. Brewin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item from Development Services is a contract, 1718/011 for the provision of domestic animal pound services. The tender evaluation, Council's been out for our current tender, which expired recently and has been previously held by the RSPCA at a fairly subsidised rate. We were aware that there was likely to be some increases. We've been through a public tender process. The only tender that we received was from the RSPCA. They currently own the facility in Wangaratta, and we do share that resource with Benalla. They also contract through the RSPCA. There is a substantial increase in fees for the provision of that service for the next 3-year period, but as we have no other tenderers and we are required to provide this service, the recommendation tonight is that we award the contract to the RSPCA, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal the documents, and the further dot point is refer the recommended animal fees increase to the mid-year budget review in order for Council to recoup some of the costs associated with this tender.
Thank you. Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone like to read the recommendations? Move Councillor Rees, secondly Councillor Bussell. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. 16.2 has been dealt with. And 16.3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 16.3 tonight is presented to Council to seek their endorsement of a draft submission that officers have made to the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning in regards to some reforms to planning schemes across Victoria, which has been entitled Planning for Sustainable Animal Industries. The reforms follow some ministerial advisory committee that was formed in early 2016 and provided a report to the Minister for Planning in April 2016. The outcomes of those have now been put forward for councils to consider. Officers have been through the proposed recommendations and that they believe that there are some concerns in the reforms, in that there's some contrary to the intent, in that they increase the level of regulation for farmers without providing any greater clarity. They place some further undue emphasis on the preservation of residential amenity within the farming zone. They significantly increase the instances of planning permits that will be required in the farming areas, and increase the complexity for determining whether proposals or farm operations satisfy particular definitions. So officers have provided a draft response to the department because the response time was required by the 14th of November. The recommendation tonight is that Council endorses the submission that has been provided and forms an attachment to the report and forwards that to the department.
Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. I'd like to move the recommendation. Councillor Benton, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion?
Yep.
Councillor Benton.
I would just like to emphasise, Mr. Mayor, in my opinion, the lack of direction from some of our farming organisations in relationship to this, and it's very, especially public, there's very little that you can find anywhere in their direction, which I'm talking about your Block Feeders Association, the Victorian Farmers Federation at the executive level. As has been highlighted here tonight, it really puts a lot of pressure on farmers. Some of the setbacks, you could really get yourself into a tin of worms in relationship to what you can do and can't do. And it's a rather disappointing thing when you have all this put in front of you and they have the ability to be able to make it a lot easier for farming, especially the wide aspects of animal production we've got to have in this country, to have it come up, and we still have a quagmire of red tape. And I just urge that some of the farming organisations, especially the peak bodies, should start to show their colours and support the industries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I would like to support what Councillor Benton has just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Parking in the CBD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item that Council considers and has considered every year for the last 4 years. This report is presented to consider the opportunity to provide free parking in the Central Business District over the Christmas New Year period from Thursday the 14th of December to coincide with the Christmas Festival, and part of that's been organised through Council and also Business Wangaratta. Previously it's been provided over that period, particularly when Council as an organisation is closed down and we have some limited staff resources. It's also to encourage a bit of activity around the CBD with the Christmas festivities that are occurring through the organised activities. So the recommendation tonight is that Council provides the free parking from Thursday the 14th of December to Tuesday the 2nd of January inclusive in the CBD, and informs the community of free parking through the appropriate media channels, noting that time limits will still apply, and that previously we've also notified the multi-storey car park, who have also followed that Council's lead.
So are you looking for a further number, like to advise the multi-deck this year or not? No. Right. Any questions from the gallery? Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, whoops, find the right button. Which is the go button. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate as being involved with the CBD, the fact that we've got free parking over Christmas. I'd like to make a comment that free parking is on Saturday and Sunday in the CBD as a normal course of events. Being a town where we attract many, many people from other places, these people do not understand that the multi-storey car park is also free. And try as I may, I cannot find any signage that says multi-storey car park, free parking, with people driving around and around the block trying to find a spot, when there's 150 of them there and they don't know they're there. So I'm asking Mr. Mayor, can we have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit by advertising the fact that it is free? And also I noticed in the recommendation that you are going to put this in the media, that there'll be a media release. Well, my view is that about a quarter or maybe a third of the residents of Wangaratta read the Chronicle. And so I believe we should be able to find another way, in addition to broadcasting what we're doing. And in that regard, I would like to see, when Council issues a media release, that people who choose to register can have that media release emailed to them. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. I'll just pick you up on one point. Saturday morning is not free parking in the city of Wangaratta. It is free parking, but it's timed.
Oh,
So it's not free parking Saturday and Sunday for the entire time. Saturday morning is still policed, and if you overstay your park, you can be booked.
absolutely, and that's what happens at Christmas time too. Thank you.
Any other discussion from the gallery? Someone like to move the Jim? You can sit there if you like.
That's all right, I'm up now, so I'm going to stay. How's that? At least once in a year I get to the table. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've got one question and then one comment. The use of YouTube seems to be erratic. When you look at the YouTube icons on screen, you find that sometimes you've got 25 users and sometimes 95 users, and there seems to be no logic as to why this should be the case. Also, we don't have an idea what a user is. A user might be somebody who just clicks on it once and clicks off it. I have no idea. Is it possible to examine the statistics of this further before making any more step or taking any more steps about this? I think it needs a lot of publicity, and it's probably not getting it now, but it'd be rather fatal to give it more publicity if things weren't a bit clearer. And so I'm asking that a whole lot of data be gathered where possible about YouTube to see how we go from there.
Thank you.
Can I make my final comment now, or is there somebody else?
Well, we are talking about the parking. Is that what you're...
No, I thought you said...
we're not in general business.
Well, sorry about that.
Thank you, Jim. Any other discussions from the gallery? Someone like to move the recommendation? Move Councillor Bussell, second Councillor Benton. Any discussion? Councillor Bussell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In light of what Mr. Fox said about parking and signage, perhaps that could be a part of the parking strategy which is in progress or about to be in progress, that could be part of what could be looked at. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, I think I'm right in saying that all of our media releases go onto Facebook. That's correct.
Yeah, we have a pretty extensive list of media channels and outlets that our releases go to. They include all of the printed media, they include radio, TV, they include most of the community letters, they include various social media channels. So we're certainly not reliant on one, albeit very good, Steve, publication. We do send them to a variety of sources.
2.5 people read each newspaper as well, so it gets up to over 20,000 people in the Chronicle.
Yeah, thanks for plugging the Chronicle there, Steve. Great job.
Someone would like to move the recommendation's been moved. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? The motion's carried. Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Appointment.
Mr. Mayor, this report is presented to Council to provide the outcome of the invitation to expressions of interest to fill some vacancies on one of our advisory committees, the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee. We actually had 4 vacancies to fill. 3 were part of our rolling cycle. There are 9 on the committee, and every year 3 of them come up for election. There was an extraordinary position available due to the resignation of one of our members who unfortunately resigned to take up a position with the Carlton Football Club. The recommendation tonight is that Council appoints 4 representatives, being Stephen Oxley, Christian Del Zotto, Jamie Range for the 3-year periods, and Thomas Moritz for the 1-year period to fill the vacancy left by Marty Hogan.
Thank you. Questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Someone like to move the recommendation? Move Councillor Fuller, second Councillor Rees. Any discussion? Put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Records of assemblies of councillors, I think is next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a series of councillors' records there from both October and November, and they are a range of council briefing forums and other workshops. Details of those are in the table there and attached for further information. Recommendation is the council receives those assemblies of councils.
Any questions from the gallery? Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Fuller, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? With the motion, those in favour? Motion's carried. Have no notices of motion. We have some urgent business. Item 14.2, somewhere in the parks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that Council resolves through the mid-year budget review process to allocate an additional $25,000 to the 2017-2018 budget to enable the full calendar of events, including the outdoor ball, to be delivered.
Thank you. We've got a second to that. Councillor Curry. Any questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion's carried. Item 15.4, North Wangaratta Recreation Reserve. That's the right number.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to formally consider accepting grant funding for the clean-up and rehabilitation of the North Wangaratta Recreation Reserve and to authorise the CEO to expend these funds in accordance with the conditions of the grant. So it's been well publicised, the lead contamination at North Wangaratta. The Environment Protection Authority investigated the report initially. They did quite a bit of the initial work to enable things to proceed, and the Target Club, the Rec Reserve Committee, the Department of Environment, Land, Water Planning and the Rural City have all been heavily involved. In September of this year, the regional city was issued with a clean-up notice from the EPA, and at that point we became the project manager for the first stage, which is the clean-up of and rehabilitation of the oval and the immediate surrounds. In addition to that, the state government via DROP have funded up to $3 million for the overall project, of which this is part. We're on a very short timeline to make things happen in time for at least some of the footy season to be played on the oval next year, and that's what this recommendation is all about. It's getting the money adopted or taken into the council from the DWELP, and then allowing the CEO to expend it in accordance. So the recommendations tonight, two on the screen, and then a third point that I'd like to put forward as a recommendation is to disclose the contract price at the February meeting of council. This is something we normally do when we award a contract. We disclose the price. We can't disclose them yet because we haven't finalised the tender process, but we'll do that at the first available meeting, which is the February one. Thank you.
Questions from the gallery? Someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Benton, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? With the motion, those in favour? Motion's carried. Now move on to public question time. If you have a question to ask, will you please come to the table, state your name and address, and then ask your question. Thank you.
John Kirby, representing the Moyu Action Group. Good evening, Council. Thanks for taking my question when I get to it. Just with reference to the Wangaratta Whitfield Road, we've observed Vic Road's doing a fine job on a section 300 to 400 metres in length on that road, north north of Mooryu. It would be a great thing if council had some influence on the width of the road in the future, particularly if it was widened to a similar dimension to the road further up towards Whitfield and that new section just completed north of Mooryu, where the shoulders offer a safer section of road on which cyclists may ride. We must recognise the Wangaratta Whitfield Road is becoming busier and busier. An upgrade of the road, even extensions on either side, would help support the ever-increasing tourism traffic in the district, and not only those travelling by car, but those on bicycles. Now, our question is, does council have any influence on Vic Road's construction, in their construction of roads in the rural city of Wangaratta's area of jurisdiction?
Mr. Clark, would you like to?
Thanks, John. So the short answer is yes, we do have some influence, but the public probably has more than we do. So Vic Roads does listen to suggestions made by the public, and the best way to get results is to have a multi-pronged attack with us going in on one side and action groups such as yours and individual members of the public. So I'd suggest that the action group goes to Vic Roads, individuals go to Vic Roads, and we've certainly had the discussions about the shoulders on that particular road with Vic Roads on many occasions, and we'll continue to do so. But I'll just keep plugging away. They do listen, and I know they've done some work.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Fox, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Clark and councillors. Two things. This will be the last council meeting, as I understand, before the swimming pool will be open in Swan Street, and I've heard no mention. There is a flag on the fence, but that's all I can see, telling me when it's open, hours, charges, whatever. So I'll leave that one with you and see if we can get some more publicity. The other one, sir, is the application, or the proposed fourth application for the swimming pool. I strongly object to us spending this sort of money on a pool. So, for me to establish a rational objection, what I would like is the business plan, the one that failed and the proposed one. The one that failed should be available tomorrow. The one that the proposed one will probably need some tweaking. But I would like to see whether, with my own eyes, how council justifies the expense. I thank you.
Thanks, Brian, for your question. I guess from a process perspective, when somebody wants to request specific information from the council, the normal channel they would go through is a freedom of information request. We won't necessarily put this through that process if it's not required, but it would be good if you could give us some correspondence telling us exactly what you're looking for, and we can then make a considered response in consideration of what's publicly available and what might not be, which I'm happy to follow on from tonight with you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. My name's Ray Chamberlain from Ushers Drive. Mine's not a question, but a thank you to Council. As the Chair for the 2017 Relay for Life, I'd like to thank the support of Council, Councillors, Mayor and Dave Ford for during the event, so this is a thank you to Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Smith.
My name's Brian Smith, Greta Valley Free Range Pork. Mr Mayor, I'm hoping you'll give me a little bit of time here, considering, as you know, our permit took 2.5 years and I've had to sit on very quietly in the back watching the process of this permit coming through. We'll go back to the Poochel Bar meeting, and you're suggesting how we can more work with our administration, and perhaps I could give you a couple of examples where it has fallen down through ours and through others, and it just might help that we can sort a few things out. One of those, and Barry will not remember, at that meeting I did ask Barry where our EMP was. He quickly reminded me that it was in the hands of our solicitor. So, being the gentleman farmer I am, I thought, well, I'll accept his answer, but I went home and I next day asked our solicitor, and he says, no, we haven't received it yet. By Thursday, that from our the council solicitor, that arrived. So obviously that statement he made to me that night was totally incorrect. So do we just get a bit of spin at these meetings to these sort of answers, or do we have facts before we open our mouth? Now, that was incorrect information, and this is what seems to be happening quite often. We get not getting the right information when we come to these meetings. That would be one example. And an example here that he's too busy with his own without an apology coming forth. On another example is we presented for this permit expert qualification people who were not listened to on examples of today. One example, effluent seemed to be the biggest issue with 2 objectives. Now, they were not once did the council planner come up with any expertise or anyone with any expertise in that part. We did. We had someone with a PH that knows everything about effluent. The council, once again, in the planning department, did not listen to that expert. They went out on their own and seemed to listen to these 2 objectives and what they had. Not once did anybody come up with any proof that the effluent from our business was going to affect anybody else. But we had someone that says it wasn't going to happen. Once again, the planning department would not listen to an expert. We had an expert who's qualified in environmental management. We spent $15,000 because the senior planner wanted us to have expertise. He would not listen to Kim's written report on our environmental management plan. So we spent $15,000. Turned around, the planning department at VCAT didn't quite like our environmental management plan. They couldn't tell us what was wrong with it. At VCAT mediation, we had, a council had 3 months to resolve what was wrong with that environmental management plan. We never got it back until this month, 8 months later. So once again, the planning department has let us down. Instead of 3 months, it let what was agreed on. It took 8 months. And you know what they changed? A few capital lettering and not much else at all. No big drama things. And once, and I think at a meeting with Brendan and Barry said, oh, well, there was a lot of objections, we want to take that paragraph out. He still hasn't come back with one objector before we went to council to look for this permit. It wasn't that we were doing anything seriously wrong that we should have been put in jail. It's just that we wanted to get the paperwork done, put out. So we presented all these experts along the way. Golden Murray Water had no issue with what we were doing. But the senior planner told him an idiot and he was out of his depth at VCAT. I don't think that's the way you should respect someone else in a statutory organisation. And I don't think that's the way a corporation is going. And then we had a meeting with the planning department. And that senior planner told my wife she was a liar. Is that the way you're supposed to work with the ratepayers? Is to belittle them, bully them? I could have nearly, if I wasn't such a gentleman, got up there and nearly snotted him for insulting my wife like that. It's not acceptable to the ratepayers to be approached and looked at like that, belittled. And it's the same senior planner come out to the farm the first time, and he dared to tell me I was running the farm wrongly. He didn't even know the difference between a bloody bore and the sow. Because, oh, that boar's going to bite me. That's not a boar, that's a
So,
sow.
what's the question you've got, Mr. Smith?
I'll take it back to Barry again. When I approached him about this, he says, oh, it's a bit hard on the senior planner. The way he's acted now, and the way the planning department has dealt with this permit, do you still think he's done a good job? Just a yes or a no would be nice.
You're looking at me, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
You said you were directing it to Barry. Did you want me?
No, sorry, Brandon.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of information all at once, and I'm not going to try and respond to everything you've said because.
But you know all about it.
We'll be at risk of just getting into a he said, she said debate, which I don't want to do. The one thing I would like to respond to though is our local law actually requires people to submit questions in writing, and it does that so that it gives people an appropriate time to look up often complex things and give an informed response. I think our chairperson quite rightly gives people a lot of latitude, and we haven't had any written questions tonight. We've allowed everybody just to get up and ask their questions. We'll do our best to give an accurate response to those, but I think people need to recognise that we're being asked things out of left field with no information provided to us in advance, so we do our best to provide the most accurate response we can with no opportunity to check facts and to go back and look at the details. So we might occasionally get that slightly wrong. As you pointed out, we were wrong by a couple of days in terms of the timing of that correspondence to your solicitor. So I think our staff deserve some latitude when we do our best to respond to these things off the cuff with no pre-warning. In relation to your question about our senior planner, what I remember saying to you at our meeting was that all of our staff, including our senior planners, do a job on behalf of the organisation. They don't do it to fulfil some personal mission of their own. They are there to carry out things on behalf of the organisation under delegation. That's often a very difficult task. I remember saying to you that we don't deal with many or any of the sorts of applications that we were dealing with in your case, and my view was then and still is that officer did a very good job representing the organisation and assessing your application through that process. Did we get everything perfectly right? Possibly not, but I think that officer did very well under very difficult circumstances and ultimately got things resolved. I think we would have all preferred it to happen much more quickly, but we can't go back and rewrite history on that, can we, Mr. Smith?
No, but you could have saved the council a lot of money without the solicitor. It's cost us about 150,000. No, I would suggest it's probably getting up to that on the council department, wasting taxpayer money on that, which should have never happened. And you can put the spin on it, what you like, but this job was very poorly done, and I haven't known anyone to say any different. And it just went, and I'll tell one little thing that you did say, is when we got that MP, and that will be finished and final. Well, it won't be final. There'll be a lot more heard about this.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Any other questions? No other questions from the gallery? I'll declare the meeting closed at 7:10. We do have a confidential item that we need to go into the other room. It will only take a couple of minutes, I think. So would someone like to move a motion that we go into confidential?
Yes, I'll move that.
Councillor Bussell, second Councillor Rees. Members of the gallery, we should only be a few minutes. Councillor Bustle.
Sorry.
Jim, are you anything further you wish to add?
Yes, please.
Right, you may.
From here. This is obviously the last meeting for the year. Thank you very much for your part in that, to make it, to see that there have been a whole lot of decisions made. And that's important to us as we sit here in the gallery. I won't say we agree with everything you say. You know full well that we don't. But that's part of the whole decision making, isn't it? If we just had one person making decisions, we'd be like North Korea probably. So thank you very much indeed for the work of the year. Please pass our thanks on to the staff of the council, and we look forward to seeing you next year. We'll have the questions, Mike. We'll have the questions, and you've just got to get the answers. So thanks very much. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Just before I ask Councillor Fuller to speak, we do have the special council meeting next Tuesday night to elect the mayor, the deputy mayor and portfolios, and that will be at 5:30. But prior to that, we will be having the junior council, who will also have their election of mayor and deputy mayor, and that's at 4:45. So that's next Tuesday night. So, yes,
and sorry, Mr. Mayor, we still do have our council meeting in December as well. So we do have one. I think it's the 12th of December from memory.
Yeah. Councillor Fuller.
I would just like to thank the four of you. You are our stalwarts that are here most meetings. You often challenge us in different thinking, and we're most appreciative of that. And your combined age is a very good example of the fact that our high gratitude for your attendance in these meetings. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great Christmas if we don't see you at the December one.
Thanks, David.
Is this the December meeting, is that before or after the pool opens?
After the pool opens. Being no further business, I'll declare the meeting closed at 7:24.